Hey Faith Family, welcome to the Beyond Sunday podcast at Calvary Bible, where we go beyond the Sunday sermon to explore some rabbit holes and to bring some biblical truths to the surface. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Calvary Bible, welcome back. We've got another episode of Beyond Sunday. Pastor Andy, thanks for being here, and for entertaining my jokes.
I'm glad to be here and to listen to those jokes.
Yep. All right. So Maddie joke for you today.
Okay. Now I like hers.
Yeah, hers are.
I don't like yours.
Hers are good.
I like hers.
Okay. You should tell her a joke sometime.
I can't think of any. I'm the world's worst.
You're the world's worst.
Historian, evangelist, joke teller, at least.
Yeah, those were the three that were coming to my mind. I was chuckling about that on Sunday. I'm the world's worst historian. I thought he's the world's worst in a lot of things, actually.
Yeah, you get what you know.
All right, so here you go. Why are stadiums always so breezy and cold? Because
spectators or games or contests.
You're on the right train of thought with spectators, also called
watchers, lookers,
fanatics, or fans for short. There's a fan in every seat.
Oh, that's good. Maddie, that's really good.
Yeah, good job, Maddie.
That's good, Maddie.
Yeah.
I like hers. I like her jokes.
When she was getting baptized, I told her she should tell a joke. And she said, "No, Dad. No."
She's a good little theologian too. She knows the importance of church. It's not to be frivolous.
No, just podcasts.
Exactly.
But we have a serious subject.
Yes, we do.
1 Timothy chapter 2. So a little post-election sermon, just one. We're getting back into Matthew next week.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So all of the election-weary people can get back to some normalcy for Sunday morning sermons.
This text would have been way more serious if the results had been different.
Yeah, in our area,
for us, for the majority of our folks.
Yeah, but not for everybody.
No.
So that gets us right into our first question. So Paul says to Timothy to offer these prayers so that we may lead a peaceful and quiet life, godly and dignified in every way. Can we live peaceful and quiet, godly and dignified lives no matter if Republicans or Democrats won this election?
Yes, providing that we pray. I think that's what's important about this, where in this first century context, there was no Christian anything. Like there was, as far as from the political side of things, so unlike the founding of our country, for instance, on, some biblical principles.
Yeah.
So I think the answer to that is yes. I think that depends on our praying, because that's what this is about. We have to pray these things that we may, and I think I made a point about the possibility of that. The grammar is pretty specific. You might remember that subjunctive thing. So I know, but
subjunctive
but
is not
it's
a word
one of those. But it's clear that this is hinting at the possibility of this type of life. Now, the other thing, I don't remember whether I said it or not, but often a particular kind of lifestyle, a particular kind of Christian lifestyle, remember, led to persecution in the early church in the first century. So Paul is a great example. I'm always running out of time for these things. So let me just do this quickly with you. So one of the examples that I had in my mind was that time in the book of Acts where Paul is about to there's a riot and chaos happening all around him. And the only thing that saves him is the government. The Romans step in and they calm everything down.
Yeah.
And so there was an example. That's a great example of the government doing its job and keeping him alive.
Right.
But so you have, I think the answer to the question is yes. And maybe that's important for us, because if you happen to think that, well, we only have the possibility for a peaceful and quiet existence that's godly and dignified in every way when only a particular party is in place. If that's your tendency because of, let's use these terms, because of, how left or right one side or the other is, then we don't have a lot of hope through church history, which is why, if you remember, I wanted us to think about, since the beginning of the two parties officially being named the way they are, Democrats and Republicans, we've had 16 Democrat presidents, and then 19, soon to be 20, Republican presidents. So there's, another answer to that question is, there's your example of American church history praying and being able to experience the peaceful and quiet life that's godly and dignified in every way, regardless of which party's in power.
Yeah. Which gets us to a second part of that question. Is there a certain political power that we would not be able to lead peaceful, quiet, godly, dignified lives under?
If you took God out of the equation, yes. So that sounded kind of glib, but that's, if you take God out of the equation, now our chances of this life is only determined by the quality of the person that's in charge, or the regime that's in charge. So I'm going to respond again and say, no, actually, regardless. And I had it on the slide, all those different names of the titles of the rulers, the chancellor and the premier and
czar,
all of that. I don't know if I had czar, but that would have been one of those that should have been on there. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what kind of person. It doesn't matter what kind of government. God has the ability to make it so that the church can flourish and live this way. Now, I would think that if we had some of our friends here in different countries, if we had some pastors from different countries, like my new friend from Rwanda, Godfrey Gatete, if he were here, I think they would give testimony that their government isn't helping them do this at all.
Yeah.
Like their peaceful and quiet life is not
peaceful or quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I just heard just for a split second this morning, when I turned the car on this morning, it happened to be on public radio, whatever that, PBS or whatever they call it, WTIF. It happened to be on, and the volume was up enough so that I caught just a second of the in Haiti, a plane either was landing or taking off and was under fire by gang. But so the plane was being shot at.
Yeah.
And so that grounded several of the other, obviously the airport, and I'm pretty sure this was Port-au-Prince. So this was not like, this wasn't Maytown. It wasn't like a little Maytown airport. This was a major airport. So there's another example of what kind of peaceful and quiet life are you getting as a citizen, period. That's got to be, what would you say, overflowing, spilling over into the church. So I'm trying to hit a couple of sides of that. I think the whole point of the prayer is God can make this life happen for the church, but that's a result of Him answering the prayer. It's not guaranteed. That's why it's possible. It's may.
Yeah. So can we do these things? Yes. And can we live peaceful and godly lives? Yes, but it's not guaranteed. And so I think maybe a distinction that was running through my mind is we can honor God and glorify God no matter if our life is peaceful and quiet.
That's a great
whether
point.
the ruling, governing authorities are for us or against us, we can still bring honor and glory to God.
Like the persecuted church everywhere.
But the prayer here in 1 Timothy is to pray for these people, kings and all who are in high positions, that we might. So for the church's success, you might even say, or thriving, the opportunities there, pray for that. so that we can be a sweet aroma, in our context.
No, I think you're exactly right. What struck me about the text, and I think I had not connected godliness and dignified to the government. I connected the peace and the quiet, but not the second pair.
Right.
So that really helped me to think that the kind of government that's in place, if God answers our prayer, our ability to be living the life of faith and maturing in our faith, to be godly and to be respectful or dignified, as this ESV translates it, that is possible. And there are a lot of regimes in the world where that's not happening. Christians are struggling. Yeah. And as I tried to say, often I would think that persecution is healthy for the church because it makes them grow. That's true, but it's not only positive. Right. There's a ton of negative along with being persecuted. And that is, these Christians can't live peaceful, quiet lives, and they can't grow like they would. Just think about a church, what happens to a church that has to go underground and survive versus ours with all of the opportunity that we have to make disciples around here. I mean, we had we had an elders meeting last night. And so I happened to look at that little half sheet that I get. And one of the things that I've been tracking for quite a while now is the early hour Sunday school ABF attendance. Well, one of these weeks recently, we had like 270 something people. I mean, that's just like, that's a lot of people studying in that hour. Look at all of the advantages we have to study the Word of God together with the ABF Sunday school hour, worship service, Wednesday night, all of the activities that's going on, Tuesday morning, Tuesday night Bible study. I mean, what about the countries that can't do that? That's hurting them. Regardless of what else is happening in their faith, they don't have the privilege to dig in and study the Word. It stunts their growth. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, the persecution seems to separate the wheat from the chaff. And so like we've seen that in some degree in the American church, but not nearly like you would in a persecuted context.
Exactly.
But the opportunity for growth, which you said well on Sunday, is just not the same. So, all right, a couple more questions here. So the word "all," right, is used a few times there in verse 2. For king, I'm sorry, at the end of verse 1. Offer these prayers for all people, for kings and all who are in high positions.
Right.
How are we to interpret that term "all"? Is that every single human leader?
So let me so the all in at the end of 1, all people, that is the most general request. Then it gets specific for kings and all who are in high positions. Now, if you drop down to I'm just scrolling just for a second here. Verse 4, sorry. Who desires all people to be saved? Another one of those all, an unqualified all. And I did not have any time to develop that, although in my head I sure wanted to be specific about this. He desires all, but he doesn't will them all to be saved. And then in 6, who gave himself as a ransom for all. Another one, which gets you into a huge theological controversy. Did he die for all, or did he die for just the elect? Something like that. So, but according to this question,
is our prayer list, should I have every?
It is huge.
All?
Huge. Yeah. But
or is it just speaking in general terms here, and your kinds of leaders and?
I think that when you read these 4 things be made for all people, that's just a generic statement. Where Paul is not believing that every single person is going to get prayed for by this local church in Ephesus. I don't think that's the case. For kings and all who are in high positions, this is a local church in a city hearing this letter. And so the referent is going to be, I know who these people are around me.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, because of technology, we are aware of so much more than even when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, now we know everything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, basically we have the ability to find out what's going on everywhere.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm answering the question though, but I would say that this all for kings and all who are in high positions, it does mean everyone that is known, everyone that was known in that city to be in power was to be prayed for.
Am I failing to honor this text if I don't pray for every senator in our country?
No.
Okay.
No. But boy, we ought to be making a concerted effort to pray over them all somehow. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I thank you for helping, because that helped me actually just now.
And just for me, it's just a matter of practicality. It's not that we shouldn't be praying for those people or avoid praying for those people. We want to pray for them, but there's a just reality factor there where, the perfectionist in me wants to do that, but in reality, I can't pray for all.
That list is long. Now, let me just say to you though, I had a couple other things in my mind, but they were more sarcastic, and
thank you for sparing us.
It's a spiritual gift, but
Would have been
not
funny.
Appropriate. It's not as good as Maddie's jokes. I've got colleagues. I've got a dear friend of mine, a mentor. He just retired from the ministry after 40 years in the same place. He's a hero of mine. And that man is one of the guys that his prayer list is extensive. Mm-hmm. And people like this, where they actually create this prayer list. And so for every day of the week, they are just praying about everything, which puts me to shame. I have a list, and I work at that list, but it is nowhere as extensive as it should be in my estimation. But there are guys who are very people that I know that are very particular and methodical and working down through their lists. And
and so we don't want to cut that short either and say that we shouldn't even try, or
right.
We should be praying for
develop
these people.
It.
And that was really the thrust of the sermon on Sunday. We ought to be people of prayer.
Yeah, I mean, and this is just coming to mind, right? So how many? What do we have? 50 states, United States, 50 states. Okay,
sounds good.
How many weeks in the year? I'm putting you to the test.
52.
Okay, so even that. What if you did, like, if you're thinking, I want to do better at this. Well, what if you took every week of a year, starting in January of 25, and you prayed for every state throughout the year of the year? Well, look at that. Wouldn't that be? And I'm only thinking that because I just responded to a parishioner, a fairly new parishioner, who was asking me about my prayer practice. They got a letter from me, and so I methodically work through the directory. If we have a contact of a person, and they're attending here actively, I try to get through that list twice a year if I can. Mm-hmm. So what if we did that with each state? That's one way. That to me, that would be a nice way to move and honor a prayer like that. Then you could do the same thing with the world. You've seen the maps, and I forget what's the organization that is it. Voice of the Martyrs or somebody, and you might know this. Someone puts out a map where the regions of the world, and you can pray for all of these. It seems to me it's the persecuted church people, but I don't know.
There's a book that's got a page for every country.
Something like that. There's another way. If you just work through the world, you could work, if you divided the world up, you could do 1 week on the state of Maine, which is important to me.
It is.
You could do Maine, and you could do, whatever. Pick a country, pick a place in the world. So I think there's ways to get better at it.
Sure.
But does that make sense?
It does. It does. Now, is this for people personally, or is this for the church corporately?
So everything I could find about this, my first read on this was, first of all, then I urge that. So what's happening when I was looking at 1 Timothy and thinking about what's going on in the little letter, it is clear that this is aimed at corporate prayer.
Mm-hmm.
This is Paul teaching Timothy how to help that church thrive.
Yeah.
So I think the corporate aspect is first and foremost.
Yeah.
That does not negate, cancel out what an individual can and should do.
Right.
But this is primarily aimed at a worship service.
And how do we try and accomplish that at Calvary Bible Church?
I've thought of this a lot through the years.
Yeah.
I think the best that we did is going back years ago. Rich will remember this. You've been here forever now. The times when we used to try to line up 2 or 3 people to pray in a worship service for different things.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the better way to approach the worship service. Now, as I was thinking the other day, though, I want to thank you for the way in which you continue to add a very strong pastoral element, a prayer segment that is critical. So we are doing some praying in church that I'm glad for that. But if you ask me, my favorite segments through the years would have been when we had some people coming up to pray specifically for things. We did it leading up to the election. You helped us with it. You created this. I think those are good. And I would say that we can do better in our worship services remembering things like this, because there's no other prayer in the Bible that is this important for us. This is all, we're being motivated by the benefit that this gives us, that we may lead a peaceful, this is
right. Who doesn't want that?
We're motivating it's for our own sake. So
yeah,
I think we can do better. I do.
Yeah. And I appreciated one of the things you said on Sunday was about this dignified word and how it's the view of those in authority. Do they view us as being dignified, respectable people? And so to think about what that does for Christ's reputation, the gospel, when those who are in ruling power, do they view the Christian church as a problem, as haters? I think you maybe used that term. Or do they view us, even though they may not agree with us, as generally respectable citizens who they appreciate? And and we're praying that is the case, that we have people that are our governors, our presidents, our mayors, et cetera, on up and down that line. They view us as Christians as people who are positive citizens for their ruling, area.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know this better than I do. A lot of churches try hard to say something like this. If we weren't in the community, would anybody care?
Yeah.
And I get that, and I understand that, and I think it's good to work to make sure that our presence is not only respectable, but it's desirable.
Yeah.
I would love to see people around us say, these folks at Calvary Bible Church do a lot of good. They're good people. They're good neighbors. They're good coworkers. That would be good. That's good for the reputation of Christ. Yeah.
Good. All right. Well, that was fun.
Yeah.
F-U-N. Fun.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to add?
Nah.
It was a short sermon on Sunday.
Well, we had no choice.
No.
Should we go into the reasons why?
Probably not.
Okay. All right.
It's communion.
I just laid it out
that
there.
was fun.
Yeah. Communion is the best.
It's the best.
It's not what I was referring to.
What else are you the world's worst at?
Let's see.
World's worst. Clearly not, like, you're not the world's worst sweater, wearer, purchaser. Like, you've got decent sweater
I get
collection.
compliments sometimes on this old ratty sweater. It's amazing that young people see this sweater and they say something
Is it a cardigan?
about this. I don't know what you call it.
I think they call that a cardigan.
But what it is,
it's not a pullover.
It's a ratty. Now it's ratty because I've had it forever.
Hey.
But yeah.
Fun. All right.
I'll think about some more of the world's worst.
World's worst. Hey, Thank you for joining us. Love having you. If you have any questions, Randy, where should they email them?
All right. I think it's podcast@cbcmj.com.
Got him, folks. You can teach an old dog new tricks. Got it. Great. See you on Sunday. Thanks again for joining us on today's episode. And remember, our Sunday sermons are meant to lead us to a life of worship beyond Sunday.